December 29th, 2013. The French Alps. Maribel Resort. Michael Schumacher, 7-time Formula One world champion, beloved father, intensely private family man, was enjoying a quiet ski vacation with his teenage son, Mick. The man who had survived countless terrifying 200-mile-per-hour crashes, who had walked away from horrifying accidents at Silverstone and Adelaide, who seemed almost invulnerable inside a racing car, was about to face an accident that would change everything forever. What happened in those next critical seconds would test the Schumacher family in ways that no championship battle, no rival, no racing challenge ever could. The vacation had been planned for weeks with typical Schumacher precision. The family loved Maribel, a charming resort in the French Alps that offered excellent skiing and, crucially, relative anonymity. Unlike more famous resorts like Courchevel or St. Moritz, where paparazzi lurked constantly, Maribel allowed Michael to be just another father skiing with his children. The family had rented a comfortable chalet, invited close friends, and looked forward to a peaceful week away from the public eye. The morning of December 29th had been absolutely perfect in every way. Fresh powder snow blanketing the slopes overnight, clear blue alpine skies stretching endlessly, comfortable temperatures around -5 degrees Celsius, the kind of winter day that makes skiing pure joy and pleasure. Schumacher woke early as always, a habit from racing days never broken. He had breakfast with Karina and the children, discussed the day's skiing plans, checked the weather forecast one more time. Everything looked ideal. Schumacher was an experienced and confident skier, comfortable on challenging slopes and technical terrain. He had been skiing this particular resort for many years with his family, knew the mountain's character well. They started the day on marked pistes, groomed runs that were safe and enjoyable. Michael watched Mick's technique with a father's pride, offering occasional tips. The teenager was developing into an excellent skier, just as he was developing into a promising racing driver. It was one of the precious few places where he could be relatively anonymous, where people mostly respected his privacy and left him alone to be just another father. Just another parent skiing with his son, just another family enjoying a winter holiday together. Nothing about this beautiful morning suggested that this day would be any different from hundreds of peaceful days before it. The accident happened between marked pistes in an off-piste area that wasn't posted as particularly dangerous or restricted. Many skiers took this route regularly. It wasn't extreme terrain, nothing like the steep couloirs or unmarked backcountry that only experts attempted. Just a gentle off-piste section connecting two marked runs. Schumacher was skiing at moderate, controlled speed, nothing reckless or unusual for someone of his considerable experience level. Then, hidden treacherously beneath the fresh powder snow, invisible to anyone skiing above, a rock. Rocks are common in off-piste skiing, usually marked or avoided by experienced skiers, but fresh powder can hide them completely. His ski hit it awkwardly at the wrong angle. He lost balance instantly, completely, started to fall forward and sideways simultaneously. In a racing car traveling at 200 miles per hour, he would have instinctively known exactly what to do, how to protect himself, how to minimize damage. His reflexes had saved him countless times on track. But this wasn't a racing accident with safety equipment designed for impacts. This was different, unexpected, uncontrollable. His head struck another hidden rock with devastating, life-changing force. He was wearing a ski helmet, a high-quality protective helmet meeting all current safety standards. That helmet saved his life, doctors would later confirm with absolute certainty to the family. Without it, Michael Schumacher would have died instantly on that mountain, no possibility of survival whatsoever. But even with the helmet doing its job, absorbing much of the catastrophic impact, the forces involved were tremendous. Severe traumatic brain injury, life-threatening damage, the kind of injury where survival itself is genuinely uncertain. The man who had faced down Ayrton Senna, Damon Hill, Mika Hakkinen in wheel-to-wheel combat, who had rebuilt Ferrari's empire through sheer determination, lay unconscious in the snow, his life hanging by the thinnest thread. Mick Schumacher witnessed everything.
The 14-year-old saw his father fall, saw him lying motionless. The trauma of that moment would stay with him forever. He immediately called for help, acted with remarkable composure for someone so young. Other skiers nearby rushed to help. Nobody moved Michael, knowing that spinal injuries were possible. The emergency response was immediate and professionally executed. Maribel's highly trained ski patrol reached him within minutes of the accident being reported. They recognized him immediately despite the helmet. This was Michael Schumacher. This was Formula One royalty, a German national hero. The helicopter air ambulance was called without delay. Within 15 critical minutes, he was being airlifted to Grenoble University Hospital, one of France's leading trauma centers with specialists experienced in head injuries. The hospital immediately activated their emergency neurosurgery team. This was critical. Every single minute counted. Karina Schumacher received the call that would change her life forever. The details were sparse initially. Michael had been in a skiing accident, serious head injury. He was being airlifted to hospital. She needed to come immediately. The drive from Maribel to Grenoble normally took about 90 minutes. It must have felt like an eternity. The initial emergency surgery lasted over 2 intensive hours. Neurosurgeons worked with precision and skill to relieve dangerous pressure on his brain, to stop internal bleeding, to give him any fighting chance at survival. The injuries were severe, far worse than anything he had suffered during his entire racing career spanning over 30 decades. Multiple skull fractures, widespread brain trauma, the kind of catastrophic injuries that leave permanent, life-changing damage even when survival is possible. The surgical team did everything perfectly according to medical protocols, but medicine has limits. Now it was a waiting game. The news broke quickly, but was handled carefully by the family's representatives. The Schumacher family spokesperson, Sabine Keim, issued a brief statement. Michael Schumacher had suffered a serious skiing accident. He was in critical condition in intensive care. He had undergone emergency neurosurgery. The family requested privacy during this difficult time. Within hours, the story dominated global news completely. Every major television network interrupted programming with breaking news. Newspapers prepared special editions. Social media exploded with shock, prayers, and disbelief. The racing world held its collective breath in stunned silence. Ferrari immediately issued an emotional statement expressing their deep concern and prayers for their former champion. FIA President Jean Todt, Schumacher's close personal friend for over 20 years, immediately canceled all commitments and traveled to Grenoble. Former teammates called desperately seeking information. Sebastian Vettel, who idolized Schumacher, canceled planned vacation and flew to France. Felipe Massa broke down in tears during a press interview. The outpouring of concern was global and sincere. Schumacher had touched millions of lives through his racing. Now those millions were praying for his recovery.
The days that followed were agonizing for everyone. Medical bulletins were brief, clinical, carefully worded. Condition critical, medically induced coma, prognosis uncertain. Each update told the same story. Schumacher was fighting for his life. The world's media set up permanent camp outside Grenoble Hospital. Photographers with telephoto lenses tried to capture something, anything. The hospital increased security significantly. The Schumacher family, led by Karina, maintained absolute privacy. They would not allow Michael's condition to become public spectacle. Inside the intensive care unit, Schumacher remained in a medically induced coma, connected to machines monitoring every vital sign. Karina was there constantly, sleeping in a chair beside his bed, talking to him, believing he could hear her even in the coma. Weeks became months in agonizing slow motion. January turned to February, then March arrived. Schumacher remained in a medically induced coma while doctors carefully managed his treatment. Doctors slowly reduced sedation, trying to allow him to wake naturally, to show signs of consciousness. Small signs of progress were celebrated privately. Bad days brought devastating setbacks. The world continued to hope, to pray, but the silence from the family about specific details was absolute. No real updates, no detailed information, just occasional statements confirming he was still alive, still fighting. In April 2014, nearly 4 months after the accident, a breakthrough occurred. Schumacher showed brief moments of consciousness, fleeting periods of awareness. It wasn't recovery, but it was progress. The family's relief was immense but guarded. Brain injuries are unpredictable, doctors cautioned. Every patient's journey is different. This would be a long process, measured in years, not months. June 2014 brought another major step. Schumacher was transferred from Grenoble to Lausanne University Hospital in Switzerland, closer to the family home on Lake Geneva. He was out of the coma, no longer in critical condition, but still facing immense challenges. The family's statement was deliberately vague. His condition continues to improve. What that meant exactly, nobody outside the family knew, and the family wasn't sharing details. September 2014 brought the move everyone had waited for. Schumacher was moved home to his residence on Lake Geneva. The house had been extensively modified with medical equipment, accessibility modifications, nursing stations. Round-the-clock professional nursing care was arranged. The family could now care for him privately, away from hospital scrutiny. This move was significant. Home recovery suggested progress, stability. But questions remained. What was his actual condition? Could he communicate, walk, recognize family? The silence continued. The years that followed have been marked by absolute, impenetrable privacy, unprecedented for such a public figure. Corinna Schumacher built an unbreakable wall around her husband's condition with fierce determination. No photographs have ever leaked, no medical details revealed, no interviews granted about his health. Close friends who visit sign strict non-disclosure agreements. The few who have spoken publicly say only that he is in the best possible hands and fighting every day. Nothing more specific. This extraordinary privacy has been controversial and debated. Millions of fans desperately want to know how their hero is doing. Media organizations have offered enormous sums for information. Some critics claim the family owes the public transparency, but Corinna has been absolutely unwavering. Michael's dignity comes first. His privacy is sacred. He would never have wanted to be seen as damaged or diminished. The family's position has remained firm. What we know comes from rare, carefully controlled statements. In 2019, on Schumacher's 50th birthday, the family released a statement thanking fans for continued support. They confirmed Michael was receiving the best care, surrounded by family, but offered no details. Former team boss Jean Todt has visited regularly and occasionally mentions he watches races with Michael. The implication is Schumacher is aware, conscious, but the extent of his capabilities remains unknown. The impact on his family has been immeasurable. Son Mick has followed his father into racing, competing in Formula 2, then Formula 1 with Haas Racing. In interviews, Mick speaks carefully about his father, wanting to honor his legacy while respecting privacy. Daughter Gina Maria has stayed from the spotlight, focusing on equestrian sports. Both children grew into adulthood with their father's condition overshadowing everything. Corinna has been remarkably strong through this decade-long ordeal. She sold their private jet, multiple properties, managing finances to ensure Michael receives the best care indefinitely. Estimates suggest his care costs exceed $50,000 per week. She has supervised every detail of his treatment, researched therapies, consulted with specialists worldwide. Her dedication has been absolute. The racing world has honored Schumacher despite his absence. Ferrari's museum features Schumacher exhibits, Spa-Francorchamps named a corner after him, Formula 1 documentaries feature his achievements, but there's always underlying sadness, the greatest champion unable to be present. Unable to see his son race, unable to watch the sport continue without him. The December 2021 Netflix documentary Schumacher was carefully crafted with family cooperation. It showed Michael's career comprehensively, but revealed almost nothing about his current condition.
Corinna appeared briefly, saying she misses Michael every day, that life had been perfect before. The message was clear: remember Michael for his achievements, not his injury. As years pass, the likelihood of Schumacher returning to his former life diminishes. The family has made peace with a new reality. Michael may never again be the public figure he was, but he is alive, cared for with love and resources, surrounded by family who refuse to give up. For them, that is enough. The skiing accident didn't just change Michael's life, it changed his family's lives, his fans' relationship with him, and how the world remembers him. The invincible champion was proven human. The private man's privacy has been respected. The legend continues, tempered with tragedy. What remains certain is Schumacher's impact on Formula One. 7 championships, 91 victories, records that stood for years, a Ferrari renaissance, millions of inspired fans, a son racing in Formula One. These achievements are untouchable regardless of his condition. The accident took his future, but couldn't erase his past. Michael Schumacher's legend remains secure, eternal, undiminished by tragedy.